Alright guys, so in this one I just want to quickly teach you my Q&A growth frame. Q&A growth framework. Alright, what is this? So the Q&A growth framework is a framework that I developed for growing efficiently and fast in Apex Legends that also makes the process enjoyable, guys, because I know for a lot of you, me in the beginning as well, growth in this game is very hard. Sometimes you're not sure about what to do next. Sometimes you're not sure what comes next, so you ask for tips. But then, like, because things can quickly become confusing when things aren't working in the game, or when you hear conflicting advice. So I'm just gonna teach this framework because I do think it's helpful for that, and I used it later on in my time doing Apex as well. And it was very helpful for me in terms of like making me grow up. Honestly, I feel like if I had known this at the very beginning, I'd have grown 5 times faster. And yeah, I found it super useful. So I hope you find it useful too. Um, I've been meaning to teach this framework for a while. This and my upstamper framework for quite some time, but this one now is like Kurigami asked a question in VODs, and so it was just a perfect timing to present this. So I thought I'd just present it here. Hopefully, you guys can something useful from it. So what is this? All right, so basically, this framework is a framework to help you get to where you want to go in game very quickly, most efficiently for you, right? So um, this is the game, right? Game. This is your goal, and this is you. This is you. It's that you. All right, and what uh, what typically happens a lot is you aren't necessarily sure what you need to do next. Sometimes you'll hear conflicting advice the whole stretch, and you're not exactly sure how to manage your own growth. You're not sure how really to go about achieving your goal for the best way. You try, even if you try very hard, sometimes things just won't work out, or get advice, the advice doesn't work, or it's not meant for you or something. And so let me explain a little bit about that, because that's a part of why this framework is so powerful. So from the point of view of I'm gonna try and go over this really quickly because I want to make this video short and easily digestible. The problem with getting advice and tips, there's no problem. It's great to get advice and tips, but the inherent problem with getting advice and tips sometimes is you don't know what you don't know, right? So you don't know if this person saying this knows exactly what you're talking about. You don't know if that person saying that knows exactly what you're talking about. You don't know how much you can trust them. And whenever you're taking advice, um, whenever you're taking advice, or you hear someone give you tips, or you see something on Twitch, or you see on YouTube, and it just like it doesn't work for you or something, what happens a lot at the times is you'll be trying to you'll be trying to get to your goal, right? And you have to go through the game, right? And the game is this hostile environment for you, and you're trying to get to your goal. And what happens is that you miss because the game is hard and it messes up your trajectory. All right, so you miss your goal. And what happens when you take, so you have to be good at the game, right? And so what happens when you take advice is a lot of the times is the people giving the advice or tips, or the helping you, coaching you, they're kind of coaching you from the point of view of their perspective on things. So for example, if you take advice from me, let's say this is me, if you take advice from me, I'll be trying to get you very good at the game, meaning like lots of kills, multi kills, cool clips, look like a Twitch streamer, blah blah blah. But that might not be your objective necessarily. Those might be two conflicting interests, and I'll show this to you in a second, right? So you might try my advice by putting all the work again, and we're gonna address that as well, the work and all that, and you might miss, or you might give up at the time because you don't get there, right? And you might try somebody else and they want to, let's say they want, their thing is like, let's get to print, right? And so you try and do their thing and the same thing happens, right? Like you're putting all this work, so you have to put in all this work, and then you get to, but like that wasn't your goal, or like you give up while you're in here because it's just too hard, or you just give up right before you get to your goal or something. All right. So the problem is that only you. The problem with this is only you know exactly what you want. Only you know exactly how to get here. Only you know, not necessarily exactly how to get there, but only you know exactly what you want. There are a lot of time there are a lot of nuances in what a person wants. And for example, if you listen to me for, let's say you want to be an esports player, right? Well, if you listen to me, you might get good at the game by my definition of good at the game, but you might not be good in the sense of like an esport player, right? I, for example, I care a lot about kills and clips and looking cool. Esports player, not even while necessarily communicating, like just by doing that by yourself. For an esport player, you might want, you might need a different skill set entirely, and so you might miss. All right, and so similarly with anybody else, similarly with anybody else, it could be the same thing. Like you want to be an esport player, they're teaching you how to get to pred, you put in all this work but you still can't get there. Okay, you miss. And so what this framework basically does is, what this framework basically does, it ensures that you get to where you want to go because it orients the whole growth process from your perspective, and it makes it clear, it makes it super clear when you have grown, and it makes it super optimized to grow, meaning that you won't waste energy. So a lot of times what will happen as well is you being the not expert that you are, the new, will come and you try and you'll have to do 10 million things to just itch closer to your goal, and you just won't know, and you waste like a ton of energy here, and like you do all these things, and then and like and you'll be like till you get to like you go all over until you get to your goal. Okay, and that would be like very hard and very inefficient in how it uses your energy. So what this framework does is it optimizes how you use your energy by orienting your perspective, and by orienting your ideal path for growth. It really, what it really does is it ensures that you are on your unique ideal path for growth. Okay, let's go about this. All right, so what is this framework? Like I said, this framework is called the um this this framework is the Q&A framework for growth. So how do you go about this? I'm gonna try and make this as practical as I can be as well, guys. So I'm just gonna I'm gonna bring up examples as well. This video might run a little bit long, but that's because like I'm trying to make it as comprehensible as possible. All right, so how do you do this? All right, so the way you do the key thing with the Q&A framework is you value questions far more than you value answers, right? And you keep hold of your questions like your fucking gold, because they are, right? That's the key thing. That's the key thing with this framework, guys. You value questions 10 million percent, and you keep things simple, right? So you value questions. Questions, queue for questions way more than you value answers. Okay, that's what that is as signified by the lack of capitalization on answers, right? So anyways, how is this framework structured? Let's just get straight into that, right? So it is it is it is it is let me see, I want to make sure I get this right, but it is, sorry guys, I'm new to this whiteboard business. um, okay. um it is, don't play with me. Oh, yes, let's keep it together, let's keep it together. It is question, answer, questions being the important one as signified by the capitalization, and solution thesis, right? Solution thesis. Let's just call this S, right? Solution thesis. Question, answer, solution thesis, right? Question being the big Q because we care about that thing most. All right. So what you'll do is you will actually, let me just do this by giving you an example, right? So I say I was gonna teach this framework. I said I have another framework to do. I'll probably record that soon after, but let's just go through it with an example from this grade. So here we have Kurigami. He said, Kurigami says, "Hi, I feel like I'm not improving at all, and even when I have a good game, if I watch it, I feel like a bot. I feel like I am a bot. I think I have enough knowledge about the rings, the weapon meta, and those, but I am still very bad. In this VOD, I died by a Kruger shot, and I know very well what I did wrong there, but I think I need a lot of tips and advice." Right. So the general sense there with Kurigami's question is he doesn't exactly, he seems to not exactly know what he's doing wrong. He seems that he's, like he said, right, he feels like a bot. He feels like he isn't good very well. um Feels like he's not necessarily like hitting his goals. He just wants like a lot of tips. All right. So Kurigami, I can I'll probably, if you ask me, I'll answer questions more specifically, but I'm just trying to teach this framework right now. I'm in fact not gonna watch this video. I've already watched it. We might view pieces of it just for like the sake of uh solidifying the example, the framework. I'm sorry guys, my head is hurting like a motherfucker. um yeah, so how do we fit Kurigami situation into this framework, and this is how we do it, right? So again, the key thing about this framework is you want to emphasize questions. You want to question. You want to emphasize questions, and you want to keep it simple. That's not what the S stands for, but you want to keep the questions simple. Questions, a million percent. You want to prioritize questions over everything, because the thing is, once you have the question down, you will always be able to find the answer. That is a million percent key. So let's keep that in mind. So Kurigami, so let's try and do this for Kurigami. In simple terms, how do we form a question that will get Kurigami some progress, right? Right, so Kurigami is, if we read it through, and again I do recommend you go watch the VOD to get the context here better. If you read it through, Kurigami's question is, again, you start from the most basic questions, the most basic premises ever. Okay. Kurigami's question is shit. Kurigami's question is um he says he feels like a bot. The question is, why do I feel like a bot? Feel like a bot. Okay, why do I feel like a bot? Um, to get the answer to that, usually to get the answer to a question, it's about looking over your gameplay, or most often not, what will happen is you answering the question internally. This framework doesn't need you to go out to the game and to do a lot of work to ask the questions and to have answers. Like, you have to go out and to get some solutions, or to get some answers. But for the most part, with the really important one that we're focusing on questions, and a lot of those questions will have answers that you yourself will know internally. So I watched it and I went over this a bit before. So let's just say for kilogram, the answer to that is um I feel like I'm not doing the right thing. Feel like I'm not doing the right thing. Right thing. You see how I'm keeping it simple? I'm keeping it dead simple. You have to go through it like this because you have to orient from the perspective of the question. That is the most important thing, and you'll see why later on. Um, and so we aren't at solution yet, right? We're still doing we're still at this Q&A phase. Okay, we'll get to a solution thesis soon enough, and that's where we'll start doing some work. That's where we'll get in the game. But this is the framework: question, answer. All right. And so with this is called one block. This is a block, right? Once you've answered a question successfully, you've done some work, you've progressed. That is key important. You've done some work towards your goal. You need to know that, and you need to validate that. That is key for using this framework, and using it to determine growth. Why do I feel like a bot? I feel like a bot because I am not doing the right thing. Alright, that makes sense. By the way, only Kurigami could answer this question the way that this is answered, right? I could answer the question, right? I could answer the question, but this is more of like an internal field type of thing, right? I could answer for, let's say, example, because you're a noob, okay, but that would be very helpful, and that wouldn't be necessarily how Kurugami would answer the question. He has to answer these internal questions how he would. Right? I hope I'm not doing it like a horrible job of explaining that, but you we'll get to the meaty stuff soon. But this is super important. You have to get these questions right, because if you don't get the question right, the answer will undoubtedly be wrong. And when we get to the stage where we're doing the solution thesis, then everything will just be wrong. All right, so let's go now. All right, so from there we asked our question, why do I feel like I'm bad? And we answered, I feel like I'm not doing the right thing. It's important, you can do most of this yourself. Right now we get to move on. All right, so now we do this again, right? We do the same thing again, right? Question in continuation. I'm not. All right, answer, I'm not, I feel, so question, why do I feel like I'm bad? Answer, I don't feel like I'm doing the right thing. Okay, that's our answer. Now we get to move on. Why, question, why don't I feel like I'm doing the right thing? Why don't I feel like I'm doing the right thing? Okay. Sir, all right, now, and this is where you're going to have to like you may have to do some work, which is why the questions are so important. Questions are super important because they're the thing that will get you on the right track. Answers are just the thing that will get you to the next question, okay, or to get you to the next stage, right? So questions, value questions a million percent more than you value answers. As long as you know the question, you'll always be able to get the answer, or you'll always be able to get the answer, or possibly ask the answer. But you have to go through this framework of asking the most basic questions and going there. Okay, so answer question, why did I feel like I'm doing the right thing? So this is where you would have to do some work. Now we'd have to like look at this VOD. You'd have to review your own VOD, like, be aware in your own game, right? And we'd say let's just I went through it, like I'm not gonna go through it again. I went through this before, but actually let's just skip to like a specific part. Skip to where. All right, so again, remind yourself, what is it? Why don't I feel like I'm doing the right thing? Okay, so we do a punch there. We're here for a little while. Been here for a while, just a little bit and stuff. This feels kind of like newish. Okay, like I'm pretending like I'm programming here going through its own, but this feels a little bit newish. Um, I feel like why don't I feel like I'm doing the right thing? I feel like I'm standing still for too long, or I'm in this spot for too long, or I'm too stationary, or I'm too yeah. Right. And we go down. We actually die here. But yeah, this is where I'm gonna pause this. You guys can watch this if you want, but back to our framework. Alright? Why don't I feel like I'm doing the right thing? In alright. So the answer to that, after you usually what you do is you watch multiple clips and you try and get the sense for an answer, right? After you've made sure you've stated the question as clearly as you possibly can, and you've worked it down like this. Why don't I feel like I'm doing the right thing? I feel like I'm standing still for too long, or a better answer, I feel like I'm playing too slow. Okay, that's the answer, right? And so and then you go, okay. Then you go, okay, we're just doing this again, all right? Okay. See if I can figure it. You go, okay. Um, then this is where your solution or your solution thesis will come in, right? You go, so what would be a solution to if that's the answer you came up with after looking at that, right? Like what would be my solution thesis or a possible solution to solve that, right? And you go something like, all right, solution thesis, solution thesis, play faster, play faster, right? And or you can be like always keep moving, right? Or always be moving. It can be your solution thesis can be anything that you think might have a good chance of like my answering play, being a good solution to the answer that you came up with for the question, right? So it might be play faster. It could be make sure I'm not standing still, or in the same spot for more than 5 seconds, right? As your solution thesis, and then you whatever solution thesis you come up with, you whatever solution thesis you come up with, you go in game and you try it out, right? You go oh, wow. you go you go to the game and you try that, right? Whatever solution thesis you come up with for your answer, you go in game and you try that, you try that. The game will tell you yes or it will tell you no based on how it thinks you're doing with your solution thesis, and it will say yes or no. If you get it right, then you get to your goal and you answer your question of why you solve your question, or you answer your question of why do I feel like a bot, right? And if you get a yes and you no longer feel like a bot when you're watching your VODs or you're doing whatever, then that's right, then you got that right, and that's progress, right? And you should take that as a dub, because you just made progress as a player. You just grew as a player, okay? Just got that. You just grew like a player. If it tells you no, then what you do is you come up with a new solution thesis. All right, I feel like I'm playing too slowly. Is it play faster, or is it make sure I'm not standing solution thesis play faster, right? And then you try that, You try that, the game gives you feedback, and then you see if it works, yes or no, right? And if it works, it solves your core problem of why do I feel like a bot. If it doesn't, we go back to our solution thesis. Okay? But the key thing that you want to keep in mind that you're doing here, you're fixating on the question. The answers don't matter. You don't know the answers beforehand, right? No, like nobody really knows the answers beforehand, but only you know the question, right? Only you know the question that you're trying to answer. And so it's super important that, like, wait, and by the way, the game will mess you up as well. The game will which is another reason why the question is so important. The game will at different times will give you different yeses or nos, right? So, you know, sometimes you're playing great, other times you're just awful. If you keep fixated on whatever question you're trying to solve, no matter what the game does, you always know how it's doing in relative to that question, right? And so yeah, I hope teaching this framework will help you grow and help you manage your growth better. Again, the key thing is keep the questions dead simple. Always keep the questions as simple as possible and work your way down and fix it on the questions. The questions matter 10 million times more than whatever answer you could have. And you can fit this in almost anything. Any player, any level can do this and it will work for them. It doesn't matter what level you are. It will get you growth and you progress. So yeah, I hope this was helpful, guys. Let me know if you have any questions. I'll try and answer any questions that I can, and I'll see you the next time. Okay.